plastic trash bag, and I like dragged it over the trunk of my car. It looks like hauling a body over.
Right. Well,
But
you're doing it.
I couldn't get the smell of my car for like half a year. It was fucking insane. It smelled so bad.
Yeah, I do. So I like to use rotting bait for catfish. So I'll do a lot of getting like I'll take bacon and like different meats and I'll set them in a cooler in the back of my truck for like 5 or 6 days straight in the blaring Texas heat, like 110 degrees outside. And then I'll like take that fishing and it's great bait, but people are just like, what the fuck, Mercedes? And I'm like, it's great. Okay, don't judge me.
Last time I went fishing, I got like 6 ticks. It's hard out here in Wisconsin with the wood ticks.
Yeah, I fuck that. Mercedes, do you hate going to the dentist? No, I don't hate it. I like it.
Do you guys have ticks in Texas or?
Yeah, we have something called a Lone Star tick, and if you get bit by it, there's a chance you might become allergic to red meat.
Ooh, that's a big L.
Fuck that, no, yeah. But luckily, like, I don't have, I've never had to deal with them, but I'm pretty crazy, like, with the way I dress. They're just not getting on me in general. But I plan on moving up north a little bit, and I think the tick population is even worse.
It
But
is. It's bad. It's very bad.
yeah, fuck that. And it's like I'm an outdoors enthusiast, and I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know. Like I've always been in tall grass, Oregon, Washington, I guess, but like Colorado doesn't have a bad tick problem all over, and I've never gotten a damn tick.
Well, if you wanna like maximize your chances of not getting one, you should like cut your hair pretty short, and then people, a lot
Like
of people who run
hair.
trails. Yeah, okay, that works. And then a lot of people who run trails in the Midwest will like will have like wear completely long sleeve and
That's
long
what.
pants, and then they'll like tape up their sleeves and ankles.
Yeah, I tuck. I got. Not only do I tuck into my boots, but I also have like just like cuff draws. So at the bottom, it completely ties it tight to my ankles so ticks can't get in. And then I wear tall socks on top of that, long sleeve. So the only place I'm doing really big tick checks is on my neck. But then I have my bandana, which kind of helps. And then, but it's mostly my hands. But that has worked. I've always worn like ridiculous boots. I don't wear tennis shoes. I got one pair of boots that I use for everything.
I wear flip flops like 90% of the time.
Brian,
Don't
no
get
wonder, no wonder you're getting fucking ticked out. The fuck? Do you wear flip flops when you go fishing?
huh? Sometimes.
Bruh, that's cool.
Mostly when I like wade in though.
Yeah, I'm still in the same pair of boots when I do that. I fishing in Austin, Texas sucks. Central Texas fishing is like the worst. And a lot of it is because like it's just extremely overfished. I'm in Austin, you know what I mean? It's just like ridiculously overfished. And
Aren't the bass supposed to be huge down south?
yeah, like if you're going to Houston and going out towards like we have like a little Everglade portion out there for sure, yeah. But where there's overfish, like Austin, extremely overfished, and there's no like if you want to drive like an hour and 45 minutes out of the city, then you're gonna get good fishing. But
That's what I'm usually driving.
yeah, no, I'm used my whole entire life. I've always been 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from the best fishing spots ever. So when I moved down here, I was like, oh God, no. I am literally the whole entire reason I'm moving is because of fishing. That's it. I'm like, the fishing here, like, I need to be 15 minutes away from fishing paradise. And if I'm not, then I'm like, my mental health is in a tank.
I
So
have gotten screwed on walleye for the past 2 years. I haven't caught a single one.
you,
I don't know what it is.
what are you using?
Um, I use a perch swimmer most of the time. Most of the time, I use a perch swimmer. If not, I'm just using a worm on a bouncer.
Yeah, I'm excited because in particular, we have everything. So like there's the species of cats, and then you got gopher. fish, and then you have the alligator gar, you have muskie, you have pickerel, you have trout, you have uh, obviously like you perch, you have your walleye. There's a fish that looks very similar to walleye, and I forget the name of it. They're
It's
like
a sockeye. I'm
it's
pretty sure.
it's a what?
Sauger or sockeye
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, that's it. Sauger, I think it's Sauger fish. I forget how to say it, but I know how to. I think I know how to spell it. Sauger. Yeah, that looks incredibly close to the walleye. Um, so we have those. What are all those? There's so many. I know there's muskie. We have those fish. I know
I'm
we
not
have
trying to.
perch. What, hun?
I didn't want to derail the combo. When do you go live usually? What
So
days?
with the Unfuck America tour, we go live Thursdays and Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Okay.
Um, and then like anyone who's associated with the tour, you just request up and we start debating and stuff. Um,
On your page or on the Unfuck America page?
we do it on normally on my page just because it's got more followers, and
Right.
then we the Unfuck tour page joins us, and then I think we have like an issue going live on the Unfuck tour page, so we just sometimes it'll be my page, sometimes it'll be Anne's page,
Okay. Okay. I'm following her too, so
huh?
I follow her too, so I'll probably see that too.
Yeah, and I plan on going live more. I've been so entrenched in the Unfuck tour, just like working tirelessly to make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't imagine the logistics behind it. Sounds awful.
Yeah.
Rough.
'Cause
But
I was just
it's so
asking.
worth it.
You said, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited.
You're
So
excited?
yeah, so yeah,
Good. Yeah, these are the type of people we need because my thing is like we need like genuine real people who care and who can put their differences aside in order to fight for the actual like principles that we want to see and the policies that we
exactly.
want to see versus we have a bunch of people who I mean I'm going to say it, the first tour was filled with a bunch of people who I don't even think they give a fuck about policy. I think their biggest concern is optics. Like we had people in the and maybe I don't know if they're still here, but we had creators from the tour, from the first tour that blew up, in our live tonight making comments and cheering on Destiny, and it baffles me because I'm like, wait, you had a problem and quit the tour with what over the Z situation,
Wow.
but you're in this exact same live watching and then cheering on Destiny.
That doesn't make any sense.
It makes
He was
zero
he
sense.
How
Like,
do you
he
skip
was in
anything?
here.
yeah, Destiny was debating for the first hour in here, and there was a bunch of people in here who was from that tour who was cheering it on, and I'm like, okay, so I get it. So you want to be able to cheer on Destiny in private, and you want to be able to like you agree with us where you think maybe you think PC culture is trash, but you physically cannot say that because you care too much about audience capture.
That makes no sense.
And
Being
I
a Destiny fan these days is like actual smooth side in a lot of communities. Like, oh my god,
Wow.
being outed as a Destiny supporter is just like sometimes it just gets you kicked off of live sometimes.
yeah, and I didn't know that when I first came over here, dude. So like I left MAGA and I came over here and I made a video on it, and I was like, yeah, the reason why I'm over here, part of it is because Destiny stumbled upon my For You page, and damn, he was slamming down MAGA, and I said this is incredible, and I made a video stating that, and the comments they didn't give a fuck that I left MAGA. They were like, how dare you mention that godforsaken name? And I'm like, wait, what?
It's probably the timing though, because he just
Well,
ended
no,
up in some drama.
but it was before that. This was like,
Oh,
yeah, this was even before that, and it was just like for me personally, I look at that and I'm like, wait, you're more concerned over because when I first came over here, I did not know that there was a difference between a leftist and a liberal
liberal.
and
Yeah.
all the
Wait,
factions and shit. And I thought,
Mercedes, Unrealness, request up. Come on, I invite you. Come on, get up here.
who is it? Realist?
Unrealness, is he in the requests?
Wearing my gender as a costume is wild. Are you talking about me? You'd be. How do you feel if I told you I was born with male range level testosterone and I don't take hormones? How would you feel if I told you that? I don't know. I didn't. I. It's something that I never understood until I actually went to the doctor, and they're like,
Makes sense.
"LOL, no. LOL, no. What? You don't think I have male range level testosterone?"
You see,
I would.
their liver is actually the size of their thyroid, and their thyroid's actually the
But
size of their
yeah,
liver.
Mercedes, I was asking because I'm about to call it a night. I got a long day tomorrow. I had a long day today.
Of course. No, you.
Yes.
I'm just. I love hearing your voice. I think you're fucking awesome, and thank God you're. I'm gonna say it normal. Maybe we're different. Maybe we're not normal, but you're not fucking ridiculous. So you're cool.
No, facts, facts. That's why I'm with it. That's why I'm with
That's why I
it.
fucks with you. So you're
Yeah.
sweet.
All right. I see you around.
Bye, buddy. Unrealness. Do you want to come up here and talk about that? We can unpack that together. Did you say you were going on your own live? You can come on this live first, real quick. I'll take just 5 minutes of your time. It's funny. My most favorite thing about these people is they'll be like, "Yeah, God makes you perfect just the way you are," and then like my twin is intersex, like literally, and it's just the funniest thing because I'm just like I'm confused.
Oh, so it's like running the family or something, or
Yeah, so and just with us, like it wasn't a previous thing. It wasn't like everyone is fine, and then it's just me and my twin. I have male range hormones, and my twin is intersex.
hmm.
Versatile is still texting me.
Is Versatile still in chat?
Probably not. Maybe he'll answer.
That'd be funny.
Everyone, look up person Robinson Green extreme fishing. Enjoy. Yes, Robinson Green extreme fishing. Damn, it's 10:54. There is people in here who they just don't. They're just watching, and I'm like, damn, why are you watching me, guys? I'm not that entertaining. But thanks, that's really sweet.
I mean, they could request up. I'm here. I'm always here for the debates.
Yeah, we're here for the debates, everyone.
I came from the blood sports era, but I'm chill tonight. Okay, I'm chill. Very chill.
Just watch the dude is in jail video. Yes, yes. Joe, he was resisting arrest. I actually talked to his social worker today, the older millennial social because I called the prison or the jail. And I told her to give him my number because I'm going to record a TikTok of me calling the older millennial while he's in jail.
Wait, is the older millennial in jail right now?
Yeah, he got booked this morning at 2:30 a.m.
For a
and for
DUI or something?
it was a previous DUI violation of probation charge, which he doesn't get to post bond for. The charge he's in for right now is resisting arrest while he was getting picked up for this violation of probation.
Nice.
Interesting. When I talked to the social worker, she said he has a $5 bond where he's at right now, but the reason why no one's posting or he's not having anyone post for it is because the minute it gets posted, he went to a little hearing this morning. But basically, what was said was you have a warrant in another county. So what's going to happen is the minute someone posts bail, either if they do that or if you just wait it out here, and then what will essentially be happening is he won't leave. He can't just post bail and leave. He'll get put in a van and then transported to the county next door, where he has to then be booked for his violation of probation charge, and that one has no bond because it was a warrant. So
Oof.
so it's not looking good for him. So even if he were to get out of this jail, he just has to go to the next jail and continue serving. So hopefully tomorrow he gives me a call, and then I'm just gonna be
Do you
like,
have his number?
so he's in because he's in jail. Like I can't call into him. He has to. I gave his social worker my number, and because I gave her my number, she gives it to him, and then he can call me. But I disguised it. I said I'm I said I'm a fan, and I just want to talk to Joe and put some money on his books. But I didn't say that. I didn't necessarily say that to her. I was like, this is someone that I know and that I want to put money on his books. But I'm kind of like low key acting like a fan in order to get him to call me because the guy's egotistical as fuck. So I think he will.
He'll just drop people. I mean, I've tried to debate him, but he just accused me of like reading off a script and dropped me immediately. It
Oh
was
no, he does. Yeah, he does that. And my what I'm gonna do is what I want to do is I want to like just make a TikTok out of it, and I want to be like, yeah, Joe. Oh my God, let me just. What are you wanting there? Do you want some cup of noodles? Do you want some sausages? What's up? And then I'm gonna be like, damn it, Joe, the credit card's not working. Just gonna like Southside said, you know you're a horrible person when you are happy over another person's issues. I think that's debatable. I think you should come up and talk about it, but it's because Joe himself, Joe is how would you say this? When some people are just really awful, and I am one who extends ridiculous amounts of grace for people, and I love everyone, but this guy, man.
I don't like him either. Honestly, we're just memeing up here.
Yeah, I mean the man straight up took a picture of this random Democrat chairwoman and her husband and said, "Yeah, his husband is uh, that pew pewer who took out that Democratic representative and murked the dog and the husband." He showed a picture of not him, not the man who did that. It was some random Democratic chairwoman and her husband and said, "See, this man is it," and they're Democrats, and it was like it wasn't even. It was a picture of totally different people, and he knows it's false. He just gets on here and says that regardless. I'm gonna start inviting rando people from the audience.
That sounds fun. I agree with this.
Let's see here.
Do you stream on a PC or on a phone?
Depends. I did both, but right now phone. I have access to like TikTok Studio for like streaming.
Yeah, when I
You cut out what? You're probably, but I don't know where you went. Is it me or is it him, guys? Can you hear me? Can you hear him?
Hi, Mercedes.
Hi.
ah okay, finally.
How are you doing, Jedek? Can you hear me?
Hello, Gen X.
I don't know what's going on there. But the minute she's cool as fuck. She like, I know who this is because she's always interacting with my content. It sounds like there's a really loud noise in the background. I don't know if you can hear me. And then we can't hear you at all. Like we don't even know if you're talking, but you're welcome to stay up here regardless because you're cool as fuck. And like if it, you can check that. Like I can check now. Is it still going? Let's see.
Okay, is
Oh,
that
there's
better?
perfect, perfect. Hi.
Sorry.
No,
Hi.
don't even apologize, man. I was brushing my teeth on camera earlier. Like, fuck it.
I'm now an issue.
You're now an issue.
I guess that's what they said.
Gen X is now an issue. She's good now.
That's okay. Oh, I
Oh,
have an issue. Yes.
oh. It's okay. If you join the cringy leftist and camp call it over here, you become an issue by association.
Well, I'm okay being an issue. I don't care.
So
I had a whole drama, actually, my own whole drama. It was interesting.
Let's hear it.
yes.
It was like the Z drama, but like me.
I want to hear it because I think I've heard.
I was debating. I was on a TikTok live debating whether I was essentially somebody was comparing the Democrats and Republicans when it came to racism. Like these parties aren't even comparable. Like they're one of them's like very wacky, way out there. And so, but I was debating. Um, a black woman comes up on the panel. Um, is very rude, misinterprets everything I said. Essentially, just strawmans and does a bunch of shadowboxing. Um, I respond. They accuse me of microaggressions. I defend myself, explain my thought process, and and so now there's a whole bunch of people who think I did microaggressions and still want me to apologize for it, but I didn't do anything.
Wait, but are you not?
I am black, yes.
I'm
Correct.
done. I'm finished. I'm fucking finished. Okay. Okay. That's fine. You know,
Actually, wait. I should have just said I'm black. I can't be racist. I can only be prejudiced. I should have just said that in response. I should have
I
just given them the
fucking
meme
love you.
argument.
I fucking love you. I mean, yeah, that's crazy. That to me,
Eh,
that's crazy because that's been a lot of my biggest issue in these debates is like every single person that I've dealt with, like on this tour, and everyone, like no one is actually racist, but to be accused of it over and over again can be tiresome because we're genuinely fighting the opposite of that. Like we are fighting for policies that are inclusive for everyone. So to be roped in with, I mean, they're trying to accuse us of like being on the same level as people from 200 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, and that's what Destiny had a conversation with Simple Black Theory and was like, I don't know if you saw that. That was interesting
The clips. Oh my gosh.
because I mean, basically, he's like, where do we draw? There's micro and macro for a reason. Like, obviously, this is on a scale, correct? Like, you're actively saying that they both, uh, the end game of both or the outcome of both is the same amount of harm. And he's like, that's just not true. It's insinuated by the name micro and macro, and
Literally.
and they're just like, no, you're actually murking people because you said that, and he's just like, and that's like, I'm just cringy. You got picked on. Get over it. It's not hard.
okay.
I mean, I'm not.
That's that's
I'm disappointed because there are some people I like really appreciated, but then they I don't know. I feel like they ended up on the wrong side of that. But
Yeah, it's almost like these people, what I noticed is they are forced to capitulate or else they themselves get canceled by association, which is another crazy thing that goes on in these spaces too. It's like if you do not side with them, then you're just as bad as the person who they believe committed the act. And it's like,
And that's all bullying. It's all bullying. Is
thank
like
you.
if you don't agree with me 100%, if you don't meet me 100%, then you're the problem. It's like, well, I don't. We're all different people.
Gen X, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be completely off on this, were you the person who got like bullied on a panel?
I'm good trouble. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't gonna mention. You did it. I
oh,
didn't
bro,
mention
good
any
trouble.
names. But
Seems like
no, I watched this girl. I'm gonna tell you right now. Me and I was with someone else, and we were like, we were heated. We were very upset. We were like yelling because we were so mad because I was like, oh my god, they are actively like picking on this woman, and she is fighting for our side. And then you were talking about like, and you could tell that you were nervous because it's fucking thousands of people up there just watching you, and then they started
and,
making fun of
and
you.
they were tearing me apart, and I was like, don't. I was like, don't read the chat. But I was like, oh my god, I'm like, your chat's so mean. But I went up there to say CFH did nothing wrong when he
Oh,
was in your live. And that was my whole thing. I was like, hey, I saw, your video to him, and I'm like, he's a fucking good egg.
yes.
But then I was like, yeah, I don't think it's going to be too far anyway of anything. And when I said I'm not so far left, they're like, oh, what?
Hell
I'm like,
broke loose.
okay, sorry, I'm a terrible person all of a sudden.
Yeah. No, they
But,
treated you, they literally treated you as if you were like the worst person, and then they started making fun of you about wearing a shirt, and like that's not
oh, yeah,
true.
because I have anti-Trump shirts like for every day of the fucking week. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, big fucking deal. Like, you don't even. oh, you wear a fucking shirt. Oh, you go to a protest. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't understand why this turned to like, I am a terrible person because I'm not fucking like making fun of every single fucking person on the internet
It's the
that doesn't agree
constant.
with me.
Yep, the constant belittling, the constantly it's never good enough, the constantly you didn't do enough. It's agree with me right now. Admit that you're the worst person ever to exist inherently, and then you can be in our club. And while you're in this club, if you do step out of this tiny box we've put you in, we're going to banish you and make fun of you and you could potentially get doxxed. And I'm like, "Help? What? Are
This is a
you huh?"
I
whenever
know.
they say this is a conversation, not a debate. I like actually crash out.
Oh yeah, I lose my shit.
It's like, what are you talking about? We're disagreeing. We're having a debate right now. It's like, come on.
Yeah. No,
They
or
just want you to like lie down and agree. That's what they want you to do.
yes, yes. And then they'll be like I think the worst thing about it too is you'll be like, "Hey, maybe this should be a conversation behind closed doors." And they're like, "No, it must be public." And you're like, and it's funny because I was watching, there was some guy, his name is like he's a philanthropist. I think his name is Dan. And I was in a live watching him absolutely get reamed by the same group of people doing the exact same thing, saying the exact same wording, dismissing what apparently what had happened was something happened to him, and he responded. They completely dismissed what had happened to him, continued to basically tell him like this is not a private conversation, this has to be public, and then they turned off the comments, and it's like your work isn't genuine if you have to have people see it. Like if what you were trying to do with Dan, which I don't agree with it in the first place. I messaged Dan. I said, "Hey, bro, if you ever get tired of like these crazy fuckers, come. You're welcome over here any time, buddy. Like whenever." And it was just wild because they couldn't understand why doing this on the public stage put someone in an immediate position of defense, and that's not productive. Like that's common
No.
sense. It's basic human psychology, and they take basic human psychology and they literally throw it into the Mariana Trench, and then they wonder why everyone's just like, "This isn't working. I'm not going to agree with you." And then the people that they're trying to get to capitulate start crashing out, and then they just further blame them. And I'm like, you literally convince this person that you should be able to publicly lambast them in front of 20,000 people. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
I
Uh,
mean, I was a little disappointed in myself, like on that life, but I got over it a long time ago because I did get so like, and I was so nervous going in there anyway because I go on lives like with my friends. We play games, we talk, we hang out. I don't go on lives like that where it's like all these. They were already like bashing me before that because I was like CFH, and they were like, fuck that guy. And I was like, no, please let me in because not fuck that guy.
that's crazy.
And that's crazy.
Wait,
And he was such a good person.
you mean the you mean the ex cyclist is gonna say fuck that guy to the ex sniper who fought for this goddamn fucking country? Like I don't know I don't know what you're on, but give me some of it because I need that level of Delulu in my life.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's very, let's just say confident.
I'm dead. I'm done. I'm dead. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my gosh, fellow sparkling water enjoyer. Yes.
Dude, I call it it's LaCroix, but I call it LaCroix just to piss people off. My favorite, I will be buried with a couple of cans. I could replace
Wow.
water in totality with just in any flavor except lemon cello. If you give me a lemon cello, I'll probably gag. And I'm not a picky person, but I don't like cream sodas, and I think lemon cello is a cream water.
Ew.
Yeah.
Wait. And it's the lemon?
Yeah, lemon cello. I don't even know if I'm saying it right.
Limoncello?
Oh shit, sorry. Lemon
No,
cello.
well,
No,
no, because
no,
I know about
I'm just
LaCroix.
joking with you. I'm just joking with you. Uh, yeah, it's like it tastes like it tastes like you put a couple essence of vanilla with some lemon in there.
No. Mm-mm.
Cringy, are you a lemon cello fan?
I just drink whatever flavors in the.
Limoncello is not good. Like I, it's I got some when I did like a study abroad in Italy, and I brought that and grappa home. And my dad, I gave him the grappa, and he was just like, "What?" And the limoncello was not good. It's very strong.
I mean, I'll drink any brand of sparkling water essentially, and any
Oh,
flavor.
Any flavor?
Any flavor.
Do they have chocolate flavor?
No, I've never had chocolate flavor
they
personally.
probably haven't. I I'll drink any. So I'll drink San Pellegrino, and I'll drink Lacroix,
The
and that's
Crocs.
the Crocs. Sometimes I don't consider Spindrift a sparkling water because it's got some juice in it. Um, and oh, Topo Chico. So Topo Chico, LaCroix, and San Pellegrino is my indulge what I indulge in. Why do you marriage or are you on about in
What
Venice?
does that mean?
I'm not really sure.
Why do you marriage, or are you on about in Venice?
Venice, the marriage.
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
Venice the marriage. You know what? We all love Venice the marriage. Let's just say that.
It's awesome. We love Venice marriages.
Cheers to Venice the marriage.
Yeah, unless it's Jeff Bezos and he gets boycotted out of having was it a marriage? I don't know what he was doing over there. He was at a party. He
Oh,
got
his yacht party.
yeah. I think he literally had to move it because of the boycotts. And someone was like, if you have enough money to like rent the entire city, like you have enough money to pay livable wages. Seattle, the marriage. These got to be trolls. I don't know what they're saying. Older. Oh,
Yes.
someone made an account. Oh no, it's not. It's their. They just commented. Older millennial got the FAFO. Yeah, that was really funny when I saw that. I don't. I am like a big proponent of like rehabilitation and making sure people get the resources they need to get out of the slammer. And I am not one to judge someone who's gone to jail at all. I actually prefer people. I actually prefer people who have some kind of a criminal past because I'm like, dude, you're probably gonna be like not uptight. We're gonna vibe, and my only contention with him is that he's a piece of shit. So, like, outside of just like, I don't think getting a DUI makes you a bad person, but I think spreading that amount of misinformation on the internet that you actively know is misinformation is makes you a bad person.
Oh, I got a DWAI when I was 22, which is a long time ago. And the story now is hilarious.
What
At the
happened?
time, it was not hilarious. You want me to tell you what happened?
Oh, you said it was not hilarious. Oh, you mean just the fact that it happened? You
Oh
thought,
no, just the whole everything about it, where like the whole thing was so stupid, and I was such a entitled brat, and I just acted like I was like, I'm gonna be sober in like 5 minutes. What's your problem?
that's funny. That's
I
funny.
was young.
Yeah, you just, and especially if you got that liquid courage in you.
I know. I always thought if I ever got arrested, I was gonna be so like good and talk brilliant. And they told my dad I had an anger problem.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I don't know. Oh, 1 second. We have someone who wants to come up. Do we want to try
Oh,
them, guys?
yes.
This could be bad. This could be good. We'll see. Hey, buddy.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hi.
How's it going?
Really good. Are you
Um,
married by chance?
I am not.
That's okay. You're still welcome.
I am. I guess I've been listening because pretty far on the left, and I guess I've been wrestling with what is effective in changing people's minds in terms of, if it's a good thing to come from a moderate perspective and bring them over versus from just like, a further left perspective.
I can give you my honest opinion as someone who was like raised conservative, been conservative for a long time, and then was MAGA, and then switched. Like I came over here. It would have been August of last year.
Mm.
Um, Part of the reason, like I have, I was extremely exposed to left, like what you could consider like left beliefs or leftist beliefs or ideologies, because it was the only thing that MAGA would blast out in order to keep us MAGA. So they would say things like the left want open borders, the left want like and we can debate this because I actually don't think it's as bad now, but like rent control, and the left want, insert crazy socialist policy here, which again, those are things that I can actually talk about without thinking that it's psychotic. But when I was over there, I would hear that, and I would hear left wing people say it, and then it would be blasted on all the social medias that belong to conservative content creators and things like that. And then they'd say things that, like, they would clip, clippets of them in lives, just going off on someone, immediately disregarding their opinion and calling them a racist this and that and homophobe, all the names, right? Those are the things that turn me off. The reason why I am over here was because I went on YouTube. I left the short form content to search for my political opinions, and I went on YouTube and I found people like Destiny, who the infamous, liberal, and then a couple other people who they had like leaving MAGA stories, and their whole entire many of these videos over on the Leaving MAGA YouTube was the reason I was able to leave was because I stumbled upon these left-wing creators over in the YouTube spaces who they're like, wait, you can be on the left and not be what they call crazy leftists or on the crazy left. Oh, I didn't know that there was ever a position that wasn't that. And that's what got them over. And many of them are still in that same position today. So the reason why I came over here wasn't because of leftists trying to convince me, because that was never going to happen. It was because I realized I could embrace democratic policies and not be on the so-called crazy left. That's not to say that you're crazy. It's just a Republican talking point. They call them the crazy left. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of that comes, and I like to visualize it like this. They're over here, you're over here, maybe Democrats are over here or liberals are over here. Is it easier to get them to do this or to get them to do this? Even a lot of my goal is to make them moderates against MAGA. That's sometimes I'll play that card because I know that they will never identify as a liberal, but if I can get them to understand that their party is anti-working class.
Yeah, just like push them back to Reagan, maybe.
Yeah, if they can still embrace their nuclear family, just understand that that their social security card is going to go down the shitter if they keep voting Republican, and they're never going to make the wages that they ever want to, and the retirement age is going to continue to go up and up and up, and et cetera, et cetera.
I think I agree with you in the sense that like left-leaning policies can be framed in a better way that they can agree with, like in terms of supporting like middle-class families and just like the working
poor,
things like that.
Yeah,
I guess.
Oh, sorry.
I guess where I'd say where I'm not sure about, or is where I might disagree, is that I'm not sure if like moving toward like closer to their ideology is necessarily effective in like bringing them over, you know?
When you say moving closer to, like, you yourself moving closer to their ideology?
I guess like in terms of talking to MAGA and trying to convince them to be more left, like when you like you brought up the visual in terms of like left versus right. Mm-hmm. Maybe Democrats are more in the middle, and we want to bring them. It's easier to bring them to the middle in terms of bringing them all the way left. I guess the way, if like I'm putting it in a visual sense, the way I see it is that like a compromise between Democrats and MAGA is further right than a compromise between like MAGA and the far left policies that I want to see.
It's not.
Who
It's
did
not.
who
It's not
did
about compromising. It's just making sure bringing people. It's just being anti-Trump at this point.
who did you vote for? Did you vote for anyone?
I voted for Kamala Harris.
Okay, so why did you do that? Would you say damage control?
Yeah,
So
probably.
that's what I'm trying to get these people to engage in damage control. So like obviously like you want left wing policies. I mean there's a lot of things that I want that are kind of far left. But I know that I want that, and I think that we have them closer to that position if we get them over here. Even if we don't get them over to the far left box, at least we have them in the damage control space so that people aren't like being forced to get, passports that don't match their gender and things like that, right? So for me, I'm thinking, okay, so I know by getting you over to the middle to vote for, Democrats, I'm not necessarily getting you closer to the leftist space. That's fine. But at least I'm getting you into the damage control space so that while we are operating under an administration who is doing, more of a damage control administration, I can use that time period, those 4 years of not having to fight for my life, to then go and maybe further the leftist message in hopes for, better election in the future that represents my more left-wing values.
Yeah. I guess I can see that in terms of just like having conversations and trying to convince people. I think where I'm hesitant also is just like I don't want the Democrat Party, the Democratic Party as a whole, to move further to the right. And I guess that's what I'm hesitant about because I worry that in the name of compromise or in the name of trying to like level with conservatives, that the Democratic Party will move like in a direction that I am not happy with.
Yeah, it's also
I see
about
what you're saying.
caring
Yeah,
about
okay.
the stupid issues that, even though don't matter, it's like we have to talk about transports because nobody cares about fucking tax policy because nobody fucking does their taxes, but everybody watches sports, so we have to talk about that. It's fucking annoying as hell, but yep, that's just. I think there's certain topics and certain positions we can't take. I think one of those is probably the trans women belong in like women's sports one. You can have like an opposite opinion, but generally I just would just like stay away from that conversation. Like as a liberal Democrat, and then when it comes to talking to conservatives, like on the whole, uh, there's certain words you cannot use, and you have to like describe the concepts instead of using the actual word. You shouldn't say feminist or feminism. You shouldn't say toxic masculinity. You shouldn't say you shouldn't say billionaires or corporation. You really have to try to like keep it to. There are certain words once you say them, like their rational facilities will just shut off
Yeah,
immediately.
blah, blah, blah.
It's like I kind of feel the opposite way I think about what you said about trans people in sports though, because like everyone everyone who's an adult that works does taxes, but not a lot of people watch like professional.
The average American goes to turbotax.com and clicks like 2 buttons.
Right, but there's also like so few trans people in professional sports, you know?
So like for example, coming from someone who is heavily in MAGA spaces, that the biggest issue that these people have are social wars, not actual policy wars, because they would just get obliterated in policy in the first place. So the right purpose in anti-taxes is these culture wars. So whereas maybe we understand that there's like 12 NCAA athletes or whatever, they don't see that at all. They think that there's either hundreds of them, or they think, okay, there's 12 now. In 10, 15, 20 years, if we don't put a stop to this, then there's going to be a bunch of them. Like that's their mindset. So for them, we might think it's small, but you got to understand for them, they have gone through the past 5 years of being told that this is the biggest issue. This is like an existential crisis to them.
I think the reason the transports one like particularly mattered the most is that things like due process and shit like that are such like abstract concepts that like most people don't have to deal with in their day-to-day lives. But then like everybody watches like baseball or football, or like the average mega person probably goes to a sports bar like at least like once a month or some shit like that. So when it comes to like uh sports specifically, it like makes sense why this one like really captured them. I suppose.
Yeah, I can agree with that in the sense that, like, I think Americans in particular have like a very strong sense of meritocracy, and that'll apply to sports really strongly. So they will maybe
Yeah,
overinflate the idea of trans people in sports because they feel strongly about that.
yeah, and I mean, like, there was, I think what happened with like AB Hernandez, where they were given their basically they were put in a completely separate solo category, so they could get their award or whatever their trophy, but the other girls got to get their trophies like without them necessarily placing on top of them, but rather equal. We have a cis woman and we have a trans woman, and then whatever the ranking is below that. And surprisingly, I heard quite a few Republicans be like, that's a start. That's a start. So they didn't like it too much, but I heard them be a little bit more receptive to that. So I thought that that was a cool concept.
Because it's such a small percentage overall, and there's, I mean, you don't see. I hate it when people are like, "Oh, these, trans women are beating up cis women." I'm like, they're not beating up anyone, and they just reiterate whatever they hear.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some wild footage out there that from some like there's a lot of wild footage from Australia that they regurgitate over and over and over again. I mean, like, yeah, there's some foot, but a lot of it is like club sports. So they'll take a lot of footage from club sports, and then they'll pretend like this is the Olympics. So they do a lot of that too,
Hmm.
which is insane. But like like private club sports. So I played rugby, and I was in an all inclusive club. So I mean, it was practically co-ed. You know what I mean? And they would take clips from things like that, and I chose like this was
Right,
this was a social club. You know what I mean? This isn't.
right. Like the what was her name? Iman Khalif, I think,
Oh,
the
that's one of the biggest
Olympian,
reasons why I left the Republican Party was because of Amani.
because she was, if I remember correctly, she was a cisgender woman that had maybe like some intersex characteristics in terms of,
Yes.
I don't know if it's been confirmed, but maybe like chromosomes or something. But she was like definitely a cis woman, I think, that like what a lot of misinformation was spread about.
Yeah. No, and I got into arguments with some huge MAGA creators over there over that issue because they kept calling her a trans woman, and I said it's illegal to be trans in Algeria. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And then they went some crazy conspiracy rabbit holes. I mean, they went psycho on it. And some of them actually said, "Yeah, Mercedes, we know that she's not trans, but we're gonna push it anyways." And that on top of the eating the dogs, eating the cats, on top of the Democrats or hurdling hurricanes, like all of that, I realized, holy shit, these people are like not okay.
Crazy.
Denying
Yeah,
reality.
there's not even reality. Like, you mean to tell me that Democrats are hurdling hurricanes during hurricane season, and I mean, I was a lifelong conservative, and I even heard that, and I said I can't associate with you guys because this is a reflection of my own intelligence at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, the tactics, and I think we all have our own tactics. For example, like to Zoe, like if you are someone who is really good at bringing people to leftist spaces, and I think you are. The fact that you're one of the first people that I've pulled up onto this panel, and then you said I'm a leftist, and this hasn't gone south. So I think you should be leading the charge and moving moderates over to the leftist sphere. But that's just my opinion. The Democrats over to the leftist sphere. Well, we can elect you as the head honcho of that. But uh, um, like my job, because I guess you could say, am I more moderate? I don't know what I am. I'm like all over the place with my beliefs. I take beliefs from many different positions, but regardless, I'm pretty good with MAGA, and I'm pretty good with right of center, So my goal is to bring them to the moderate, left of center, or Democrat spaces. And then there's people like you who have your roles where you're like, perfect, Mercedes just brought in a fresh batch of these people. Let's let them marinate for a bit. And then that's when you start infiltrating them with the crazy left wing ideology, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
and that's the beauty of having different positions. Whereas like a lot of people that I've talked to on your side, there is none of they can't even agree to that. To them, it's like it has to be one way or another. They have to become a perfect picture perfect leftist within one or two conversations, or they're basically told to fuck off. And I'm like
It's
I
not
want to throw a
helpful.
psychology book at them.
Yeah, it's not helpful.
Mm-mm.
It's like if you're gonna oust me, why am I gonna stay where you want me to be? Like,
Right. I also wanted to ask you, okay, I was curious if you were talking earlier about this Dan person that was like, I think I witnessed some clips.
Yeah,
Uh,
explain to me what happened on that.
so the way I perceived it is that this person came up onto a very popular live and was trying to argue on behalf of a more like liberal position, but maybe did not represent that position in a way that like a lot of people on the left appreciated. And so there were some people on the left, specifically black creators, who came up and criticized them. And from my perception, it seemed like he got very defensive. Um, and like I think from my perspective, it seemed like he felt very attacked from being criticized because I think what did happen is he was trying to argue from a liberal perspective genuinely. I think the
He was
topic
trying to
was like,
argue.
yeah,
Yeah, what was he trying to argue?
I think the topic was specifically like race issues. And he came up and he started saying something about how um, really all race is that like it's people with different melanin or people with different skin colors, and that we've made like social standings because of that. And like I think from my perspective, what he was trying to argue is that like race is a social construct, so it sucks that like people are racist or that we live in a very racist society. And then people came up to correct him, like black leftist creators came up to correct him, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk about it in this way. We prefer if, it was discussed in another way. And I think it kind of blew up because he then got defensive and like he felt like he was being called a racist or like a bad person. And then the other people maybe got even like, I don't know, it just kind of seemed like the tensions escalated because
Does anyone have the recording of this? I actually don't know what happened at all.
I think there actually is a recording somewhere of it. I've at least seen clips.
How long is this? How long was it?
I don't know, maybe a couple hours.
Oh, a couple. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
go
it
over that in
wasn't too
stream
long.
tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested because from my experience, because I've dealt with these people, and like from my experience, a lot of it comes from, for example, I think of it this way, I'm like, we have a philanthropist who like obviously has really good intentions. They might have not said something perfectly or this or that, but what I've seen is oftentimes it turns into a almost like a public shaming of these people, and then I absolutely hate that. I don't like, and then a lot of it too. What people don't understand is when this is actually happening over live, the comment section is horrible. And for people who understand that, yeah, it's just a comment section, ignore it. That's easier said than done, especially for people who aren't big on social media. So a lot of his defensiveness, and this is what I think about it too. Like if I was in a situation like that, I would not have gone up there and been like, okay, buddy, we're just going to correct you in front of all these people. I would be like, hey, we're going to end this live. and we're going to talk about this in private, because I already know that when you have, in a lot of these lives, you have like over 1,000 left-wing people screaming in the comments, "You're a racist piece of this and this and this," and for someone who's not big on social media and not understanding that, they're instantly just going to be like, what? Like, all these people think this? Like, what is going on? And then they start to devolve and get defensive, and it's a mess. And that is the importance of, I believe, taking these into private conversations off the internet. But one of my biggest problems with left-wing creators specifically is their refusal to do that. They think everything has to be a public lambasting,
And they're bullies.
and I don't understand that. And then they like don't control their comment sections. They don't tell people to stop saying the psycho shit in the comments, or they won't. They'll take way too long to turn off the comment, and then wonder why this person is spiraling. And it's like,
I'll say I did go back on Good Trouble's live like a few days ago, and I went up there and I was like, you allow your chat to be aggressive, abusive, and I this time I was like ready for it. Where I was like, look, like this is what you let them do, and he didn't like that.
In the
I was like,
wise
that's
words,
it is like he allows them to
there's
be aggressive, mean, abusive, as shitty as they want to be, and I was like, that's not okay, and that's not helping anything, and that makes you a bully.
in the wise words of one Stephen Bonnell, uh, going public with something should be after you've exhausted all other options.
yep, I agree. It's just I mean, it's what is it that you want this person to do? Essentially, you want this person to be able to fix the behavior, change the behavior, and you want to do that as quickly as possible. Well, because of how that was handled, it turned into multiple lives thereafter of correcting his behavior, and him again getting torn apart by the comments and torn apart by other people, and then lashing out. And it's like, I guarantee if I was the person in that live, I would have been like, "Hey, buddy, we're gonna get off this live really quick." And I don't even think I would have been that. I'd have been like, "Hey guys, I do have an appointment that I totally forgot about. I got to get off really quick," and I'd get off, and then I would text him privately, and then I'd be like, "Hey, something happened here. Let's talk about it." And he'd be receptive. I mean, people are so much more receptive. And then you get back into it, and that behavior is most likely, talked about and potentially fixed, versus turning it into a 5-day event, multi-live series, thousands of people, 20 million hate comments. It just turns into a mess.
Oh yeah, the meta conversations get really fun.
We got a far leftist in the chat that always is in my live talking crazy shit. She's like, "It's a privilege to be able to think the comment should be nice to you," and I just think that's again, my problem with the left is they take psychology and they throw it in the shitter, and then they expect their tactics to work, and then they wonder why it's not working and why people run. Like, there are so many leftists who are like, "Oh my God, we didn't get Mercedes to apologize, make a public apology video for who knows the fuck what. We didn't get Mercedes to do this," and then they're upset about it, and I'm like, I mean, for one, let's debate what I did. For two, you aren't going to get that by bullying me. Like, what do you... It's like, basic human psychology.
Yeah.
Actually, Nicole, it's a privilege to even have the time to comment such a comment, or have the ability to buy a phone to comment such a comment. So check your privilege, Nicole. Check your privilege.
Yeah, I think where I'm coming from is that I see... I guess I see both sides in the sense that, like, when, like, specifically a black leftist creator is coming up to, like, correct you on your language, or correct someone who's already on the left on something that they think might be harmful, is like, I don't think that's a bad thing.
But what did the person do that was harmful?
I think it was just the way they were discussing race. I think it was like very dismissive of like the issue that was being debated, and I don't remember exactly what.
I'd have to check the live, because like for me, if their general overtake was, "Hey, race is, you know, the melanin in your skin, and like we all should be one race, and they're like sitting here and they're like, or not like one race, they're like, we should all be like, we're all human, and we shouldn't, you know, be acting this way towards each other because we all bleed the same color. Like if someone came up and started saying that to me, like I believe they have the right idea. Like if their belief is we are all human and we should all love each other and we should make sure that we're not being racist toward each other. If that is their base level idea of race, I'm not even going to argue with them, because there's people out there who deserve my time, and those are the people who think the crazy shit like white rape, blah blah blah, all that shit. Like I'm not even going to give it my time of day, because I just don't understand.
Right. It's like, I don't even think they were entirely wrong with what they were saying. I think like where it came across to me as they may have been in the wrong is their like response to the criticisms. It was very much so like, well, you can't criticize me, like I'm not racist, like that kind of thing. And I think like I think
I probably take it, yeah.
I think it is very beneficial, and it promotes growth in oneself to exercise humility and to say that like, hey, I may have been wrong, and I'm open to listening to like your criticisms, but I also see the other side in the sense that like people are not always going to respond well to criticisms, and maybe changing their minds is like, I don't know, you have to find it in between, I guess.
Yeah, I guess my biggest thing is just like, when is it not worth our time to argue with our own side and potentially like I just don't know when we realize like, hey, this person, and I'm gonna say it, they spend thousands and thousands of dollars on like pushing left wing agendas. They have been an advocate in this space for who knows how long. They're doing worlds more than anyone on the right has ever done for this country, and then it's like, and I get what you're saying. I just don't think like, it sounds good on paper. Like, yeah, you should be able to just take the criticism.
No way they were criticizing the person who gives us the paycheck. You know,
I know,
the hand
but
that feeds us. We don't bite the hand that feeds us.
it's philanthropist Jesus, you know.
Come on, guys.
So, but I mean, it just comes like, for me, it just, I like to pick and choose my battles, and I'm like, if you genuinely believe that all people should have equality, and you just phrased something wrong, I'm just gonna look at you and be like, okay, you gotta.
Yeah, I think where I would disagree is that I think like, especially if you're, you know, giving money to a certain creator or a certain cause, I don't think that should make you immune to criticism.
I don't think it necessarily does. I don't think it makes you immune to it.
Right, right. But I can definitely agree with you in the sense that like airing it out all on like a TikTok live with thousands of comments, like psychologically, that is not going to make you want to change your mind if thousands of people are like shitting on you, you know?
Okay, let's take this for an example. And when we talk about, when I say like, the money shouldn't necessarily make you immune to criticism, but there are going to be people that maybe like, either A, I don't waste my time on because they're already on my side, or B, I like, when we talk about like what deserves to be criticized versus what doesn't. So are you familiar with the Unfuck America tour drama and everything that unfolded?
Yeah, I'm fairly familiar.
Beautiful, beautiful. For example, when I look at the live and what had happened, I look at that and I'm like, this was bullshit. All parties in there were wrong. I look at it and I think to myself, and I'm like, I literally do not see anything, when I say malicious, like, I'm not sitting here and being like, oh, this was racist. To me, there are people who are heated over how a tour should be handled, and they had a heated discussion, but I don't think anyone was coming from a position of race. I think that there was wrongness happening on all sides, right? Now, you would argue, like, pretend I'm Dan, right? Okay, Mercedes, you should be open to criticism about that. And to me, no, I'm not going to take criticism about that, because that's just genuinely what I believe. Like, you could try to get me to capitulate to the fact that Z's a racist, and I would literally look at you and tell you to, like, go get an ice cream cone. Like, then that's where it's like, how, when do we, instead of like, you criticize me and I say, hey, I'm rejecting your criticisms because I think we disagree here, instead of going down the path of, well, you reject my criticism, so you're the worst person in the world and we're going to oust you from the movement, versus, okay, well, maybe I just won't hang out with them, but I'm not going to sit there and blast them and make 1,200 videos about them and go psycho on them. Like they think the responses are completely disproportionate to what I believe the actions are.
See, I think I see the situation a little bit differently. Like I think I can compare it to like the situation with this Dan character, in the sense that like I don't think where the big controversy emerged was because of the original statements that Z made on that one original live, or the original statements that Dan made on that live that started everything. I think like where the like controversy and the criticism really like blew up was like the lack of like humility and understanding, and being able to say like, okay, I may have been wrong in this circumstance and I'm willing to accept that. I think that's like probably, from my perspective, what caused more of the turmoil.
And I mean, she did come out and say that it was like unprofessional for her to join the live. But like, if she does not, like, for example, like, I don't, there, I think what's going on here, the problem is one party thinks it's wrong and they're trying to get someone else to admit that it's wrong, whereas the other party does not think it's wrong, so they're not going to apologize for something that they think they did wrong. So like, for example, I have the humility to, like, for I let me think really quickly. I got really heated. Pretend I got really heated and I called you a name or something. Like I called you, or I don't know, like I pretend I have a girlfriend right here and we get really heated and I'm like, "Hey, your ass ain't fat." I don't know. I'm just coming up with it, okay? And she was really hurt by that or whatever. Like, I have the humility to eventually down the road be like, hey, that was wrong, because I believe me telling that to my girlfriend would be wrong, right? Like, you don't do that to your girlfriend. And I'd have the humility to recognize, hey, this is wrong, because I believe it's wrong, and apologize for it being wrong. But for example, if my girlfriend asked for a strawberry popsicle and I accidentally handed her a raspberry popsicle, and then she was like, how dare you hand me a raspberry popsicle? I asked for strawberry, and then she made it a big deal. I would look at her like, what? Like, I'm not. So I think like what the perception of what the person did being wrong or not wrong is where we're misaligning here. So like, where you think that you maybe, and I'm not saying that you think this, but maybe you think what she did in the live was wrong, she should apologize and have humility. We're saying, no, it wasn't wrong. She doesn't need to apologize for being racist because she's not racist. But she did admit that, she shouldn't have gone in the live just because of that being not professional per se. But it's not that, it's like we're disagreeing on if it's actually wrong or not.
Yes, I see that. I see where you're coming from with that. And I guess where the disconnect is between maybe like the far left critics and then maybe like liberals like Dan or like Z, who may have said something that was distasteful to the far left critics, is that like when these criticisms are brought up, it's like I feel like it's not taken from like a logical perspective. It's more taken from like a very defensive perspective, and that's like coming back to like what I came up here to like talk about in the first place, which is I'm still not sure as to how you like talk to people, or like convince them to be on your side, in the sense that like I think criticizing people, even people on the left who do things that may be harmful, I think that's important, even if people are technically on your side and even if people technically vote
You have to talk
where
to
you
them in
want them
such a
to
way
vote.
that doesn't make them feel like you're attacking them personally, but you're attacking their ideas. So again, if you when you use words like toxic masculinity, you're directly implicating the identity of a person, which makes them very defensive and like severely hampers their ability to like engage in a discussion after that, uh, going forward. So if you want to engage in those kinds of discussions, you have to attack the idea, or and make the person not feel like they themselves are being attacked or part of themselves is being attacked.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true, and I think and like a lot of me for the like at the end of the day, I analyze each person, so it's like I can tell by talking to someone how far they could potentially move on the scale. Like there are people who are generally like really open, and I'm bringing this back to MAGA specifically. I look at a scale like, is this how do I maximize my time? So if I'm talking to someone and I know that I can only get them in the moderate position, then I'm going to get them there, and I'm not going to bother further because I just know that they're not going to get anywhere else. But now I'm talking to someone who maybe they're like they are already a moderate and they're really fed up with the Republican Party. I'm going to try to push them further left. Not everyone is going to get the same outcome because not everyone is the same. And the idea of getting everyone into the same box to me is never going to happen. So you have to just gauge the person you're talking to. So, for example, if I have someone who, when we talk about toxic masculinity, uh, like there's a guy and maybe he really believes in his gender roles and he is the man of the household and he has a wife who yeah likes to stay home and cook and he works and that's his he thinks that that is the ultimate form of living life as a family if he believes that but he hates how Republican policies have been, ragging on his paychecks or this or that, or he doesn't like the fact that wages aren't going up, or he doesn't like, the fact that maybe he was working in the coal mines and his black lung tests are no longer covered, things like that. I'm not gonna be like, okay, you need to become a feminist now. I'm not ever gonna touch that. I'm gonna be like, hey, so you should be voting over here because Democrats would give you your black lung treatment or your black lung screenings back for free, right? And it's because I know that person in their entirety of their life will never become a feminist, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince them to. I'm going to try to get them to vote for damage control and then move on to the next person instead of wasting all my time on this person arguing with them as to why they should give up their traditional value. I'm a traditional value type person. Like I am the person who I value making, bringing bread to the table and providing for my household. And then I am cleaned for and I am cooked for, and it's the trade off of the relationship. I value my traditional values, and everyone's going to be different, and they're not always going to capitulate to everything. So it's just
Yeah.
like, is it worth it, or is someone else worth your time? Like if you really value bringing people over to the left, then I would solely focus on those who are halfway there already.
Yeah, I think kind of again, I will like half agree with you there, and that like I definitely think there is an assessment that needs to be made in terms of like how far or like what can someone agree with or be negotiable upon. Like someone who is conservative, you can negotiate with them, I think, or level with them on like working class needs, things like that. But the part where I disagree once again is that like I think someone I think anyone has the chance to change. Uh
Oh, hold up! It muted you. I don't. I did not do that. Oh, there we go. Okay.
oh no, it's okay, it was my phone. I don't think there's anywhere out there that has like no chance of ever becoming a feminist or like I don't know. I think everyone's got a chance.
I
I think we have to understand is that just like when it comes to like healthcare or like a healthcare system where a small number of people need the most amount of care and use up the most amount of healthcare resources, it's a small amount of people doing the most amount of damage to women, and it's a small amount of people doing the most amount of damage to black people. So it's a lot more effective to focus on the small group of people who are doing a lot of damage than focusing on everyone else who's like doing barely any. And when you talk about like the Democratic Party, we're a big tent party. If you looked at like the opinions of an average like Democrat man, they're like some of them were like a lot more right leaning than you'd expect. And I don't think the average leftist would get along with like an average Democrat man, like based on like the polls. I feel like there'd be a big tension there actually.
Well, I look at like I have a when we say like the people who would never change, like my stepdad or like some of these people, like I've spent a lot of time in really rural communities, and I got like I know people that I could confidently say that they're never going to change. I mean, with 100%. And when I say never going to change, I mean the needle can be shifted, but there's a line that they will not cross. Like they will not shift to a certain extent. For example, my stepdad, he voted for Donald Trump, right? When growing up, I heard him say some crazy things about gay people. I heard him talk about like murking gay people. Okay, like crazy shit. And from the time I was young to now, that we have gotten him to the point where he doesn't necessarily believe that. Um, he is now criticizing tariffs and he is criticizing certain things. But I know, like, he's not going to sit there. Like, I just know he's 59 years old. I know, I think he just turned 60. He's not going to get any further than that before he dies. But I'm glad to have got him to a point where potentially next election, he's probably going to maybe vote for a Democrat. And it's like, but to get him to even be like, hi, I'm effeminate. Like, this guy, he uses a jitterbug. He doesn't even have social media. Like, he's not, like, he's just not moving further. Like, if I said intersectionality, his house would probably explode.
I don't know. I guess maybe I'm naive.
Optimistic. Well, you're all
maybe I'm far too optimistic. But I think there's ways even the most stubborn of people can like change their perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, he'd say something. I'd love it's. It's interesting. I think that and I think a lot of it comes from like, for example, like he's heavily influenced by his religion, but he's held steadfast to, and he's like one of those, like.
You know what? I get it. I think about my grandma now, and I do see her as like pretty, I guess, far gone in terms of conspiracy theories and
You?
things like that. So I get it. What'd you say?
Is she Q?
Um, I don't think
Of course she is.
I don't think she'd label herself as that, but she like basically I believes in all of that.
Yeah, my mom, she went full Q, like full Q. Like she thought JFK I think that's it. Yeah, JFK was never assassinated and actually visited Dallas, because there was a group of about like 400 or 500 people who went out to Dallas, because they thought on a specific day that he was going to roll up and basically pronounce that he never got. And they all went, and they were like, yeah, and they sat there and waited with their signs, and it obviously never came. Like no shit, they couldn't understand. They thought they were being sabotaged.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
They called
That's
it.
yeah. Like I said, like that's where I'm gonna stand. I think probably for a while is the like wrestling between trying to introduce people to more left wing ideologies and trying to meet them where they're at because I think there can be a balance of both.
Well, you're doing great. I'm going to tell you right now, just really quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but like you, holy shit, you're doing much better than any. I mean, like besides cringy leftists down here, I think like you're doing way better than any other leftist I've ever met in the sense of like just the way that you're talking about this. You haven't yelled at me once. You haven't said anything mean to me once. You haven't gotten sarcastic or rude. Like, you have it in the bag. If I was back in my MAGA days, if you were trying to talk to me, I would like totally have talked to you with no problem. So you have skill, 100%.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, it's definitely true. I just could. I mean, I followed you because I was like, oh god, this one's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I followed you too. I should probably go in a few minutes, but
Of course, you're.
I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
I think you gave me a little bit of insight, and I still have some disagreements for sure, but like, I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, and
It's okay. Like it's okay to have disagreements and like also see where the other person is coming from instead of just being like, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about and like blasting them is because everyone's different. Everyone also has common ground and it's finding the common grounds.
exactly, and that's what I like about you.
All right. Well, I guess I'll call it a good conversation, and I'll head out. But thanks for talking to me.
You're amazing. Like, you're fucking amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye,
Caleb,
Belle.
Caleb, I am so sorry. I did not mean to keep you waiting. How are you guys?
Oh, it's fine. I'm a little nervous right now, but I guess I've been watching your content for the past few months now. Um, I know, like personally, I'm center right, but I did vote for Kamala Harris. I did vote for a couple of down ballot Republicans because I wanted Congress to be majority Republican and for Kamala Harris to be in the White House because Trump is kind of a lunatic. But yeah. I guess one thing that like brought me to like watching a lot more of your content was seeing what was going on with like the UnF America tour and how like a lot of and I'm not even gonna say a lot of leftists are evil. It's just like they don't like have any like they don't know how to win elections. I feel like a lot of it are just in politics just to hear themselves talk.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I'm gonna say I followed because I saw you put that in the comment that you were center right and voted for Kamala, and I followed you basically
Yeah.
because I thought that was base as fuck. I'd say so. Like, I don't think my content is a good representation of me. I think like with the Unfuck America tour, that's a good representation of me for sure. Or like when I go live, my content that's really heavy on the left side of things, and it has zero representation of my more moderate or maybe even some more of my beliefs that might err on the right, which is tragic. And most of that does. The reason why that is because anytime I ever try to talk about or criticize this party, I get doxxed. So I stopped doing that. But so I guarantee you and I probably have a lot of agreeing values. We probably agree on a shit ton. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, it's like, and I know like I left MAGAs when I was like 16 and I'm 18 now. So like I know like other than abortion, like I'm pro-choice and like I'm pro-gun control now. But besides that, like none of my positions really changed. Like I'm still pro-Ukraine, which that's kind of why I left MAGA. I still am fiscally conservative. I believe in free markets. That's why I'm a little afraid with the whole Zeron thing in New York City, but it's fine.
Are you
But like,
sure? Are you sure you're right of center and not just like center or independent moderate?
honest,
You sound like a moderate.
honestly, I could be like I was pro life a month ago.
So I was pro-life for a very long time, and I'd say that I still hold. I mean, I probably have some controversial pro-life beliefs. I'm on the understanding personally that yeah, pro-choice so that people have their choices, and I know that like these ridiculous pro-life policies are actually like getting women to you know not receive care. Like for example, we just had a Republican congresswoman named Kat Kamick who went to go get an AD for a ectopic pregnancy, and they said, "Sorry, we can't do this because of Florida's laws." And she had to call she had to call fellow congressmen. She tried calling the governor because she was battling for this medication for hours because there were restrictive laws. Doctors were too scared. So I recognize how pro-life policy can actually hurt these people. But I like for one of my biggest things that I hate that some of the people on the left do. They'll be like they demean life like inside. They'll be like, oh, they'll say things like just yeet it or yeet the fetus or it's
Well,
just
it's just a clump of cells. Like,
yeah, and I don't like that, and I do
yeah,
not like that.
yeah. I don't know why my brain is not working right now. I had so much to talk about 5 minutes ago.
How are you on the border? What do you think about the border?
Um, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't think the Biden administration did a good job on the border, but I also don't think that deporting 4-year-old citizens with cancer is solving the border crisis. It's just being cruel.
Yep. Yeah, I think there was an ungodly amount of border crossings under Biden administration. I think that Republicans refuse to put legislation forward because they want to keep running on the border. I think Donald Trump purposely got the Langford bill shot down because he couldn't dare it pass under Biden because it was at the end and he was trying to run on the border. I think that it's bullshit that there hasn't been border legislation, substantial border legislation since the 1990s. I think one of my biggest critiques of Donald Trump is going to be if he pretends he cares about the border so much and he does not pass legislation under this administration, not even this administration, he's got a year left to pass substantial border legislation because Democrats are going to probably take it, in midterms. And it's like,
Yeah.
pass border legislation immediately. And if you don't, all that tells me is that you don't give a damn about the border because he keeps trying to do executive orders, and the only problem with that is those are band-aids, right? So you can executive order your way into a closed off border, then you stop being the president and it goes away. You know what I mean? Like the next president's just going to overturn it. My hope is if he doesn't bring border legislation to the table by the midterms, that Democrats take the Langford bill and they run with it and they try to pass it. But my fear is one of the biggest tells to me for Republicans is going to be if Democrats win the midterms and try to deliver the Langford bill to fruition and they do anything to block it, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so pissed because it just tells me Republicans also don't give a shit about the border. They just keep trying to run on it.
Yeah, sorry.
Whose
What
smoke
was I
alarm is
gonna
that? I'm
say?
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought I heard someone talk. I don't know why I'm so
I think
nervous.
we all
You're
talk at
cool.
the same time.
But,
Yeah, you're
but
cool as fuck.
yeah, but I don't like how the Biden administration essentially waited until 6 months before an election to at least address the issue at the border. But it is true that Donald Trump did quite literally torpedo the Langford bill by calling up Senate Republicans and telling them to vote no on the bill. And it kind of annoyed me when JD Vance was on the debate stage with Tim Walz going on about illegal crossings when Tim Walz was the governor of Minnesota, whereas JD Vance was in the Senate. He could have done something about the border, but he decided not to. And he also voted no on the Langford bill.
I
Okay,
agree
I'm
with
about to disagree here. I think Biden generally did a pretty good job on the border. I don't think crossings are necessarily indicative of him doing a bad job. Uh, um, the crossings are mostly due to like an excess amount of crime in like El Salvador and other South American countries, not like directly the fault of Biden. Um, I, I honestly think he did a pretty good job at the border.
But right now, it's not anything to do with the border. It's just people snatching people off the streets because they look Mexican, and it's not even like a border control thing. They are just taking and ripping families apart, children, mothers, fathers. I mean, anyone that looks Hispanic, they're just taking off the streets as much as they can because what is this? Steve, no, what is his name? Stephen Miller. Is in his ear and is so highly racist that they're being. I just don't understand the heartlessness and the ripping apart of the families and the cruelty of the beatings, the putting them in these institutions for like with nothing on them.
Yeah, and I think we all agree that like how the deportations are being handled are shit. But like this is where maybe like cringy leftists and I disagree versus like you Caleb and I do agree. I think that I think that it's hard. It's hard because like you like we shut down the border, but we don't have any border. This is the like it's a revolving door problem, like a forever problem to me. Like we shut down the border, we don't let crossings come over. We bring it to a a squat minimum here, but then we also don't have a process that allows these people to seek asylum properly or to like uh, actually get, for example, like we have migrants who have been here for 20 years who have been actively seeking citizenship and going through the process the whole entire time. And I look at
Hmm.
that and I'm like, okay, so like
Like, why are we grabbing them?
the
Yeah, and
solution, yeah, the solution is legislation, and that's, I mean, that really is it. The solution is legislation. It's just about who the fuck we get to pass this legislation. Because I do agree. I am a proponent of low. I don't want a bunch of border crossings. I like lower border crossings. I want to know who's coming into this country. I want to make sure that the processes are being followed. I want to make sure that everything is being done the way it's supposed to. But I'm also under the understanding that it's so impractical because the system is so broken. So it's like you're tied on both ends. And that's where I see like Biden being tied. It's like, okay, I could shut down the border 100%, but we don't have any processes to even get them over here when they need to legally in a timely manner because of
Or to let them keep doing the process as they're trying to, and then that's the thing is like ICE is like, oh, you're going to be at your meeting, so we're going to come get you now, even though it's a legal thing they're doing.
yeah, that's another issue that we're having is now the people who did come over under Biden under the pretense of it being legal are being told, sorry, never mind, reject, renege, and then they're getting picked up at these immigration appointments, which you already know, and I think you probably disagree with. But the problem is legislation.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
the
agree
government.
it's
It's 100%.
legislation.
It's yeah, it's the government.
I
And
guess I
like
just
I agree with the fact that the amount of people who crossed the border under the past 4 years, that wasn't Biden's fault, but he could have introduced legislation, or his Congress could have, early on in his administration, that would have addressed the fact that we don't have enough immigration judges to vet the asylum claims. And the asylum process within itself is broken because we're essentially saying, oh, well, as long as you claim that you're broke and you're coming from another country, you're welcome to come and you can seek asylum.
I mean, yeah, I agree. They probably should have dealt with that during
Yeah,
when they had control of the House and Senate.
I
Yeah.
agree, and I think we see many instances like that in Denver. Like, I, there's a lot of things that can be pointed to in both administrations where you look at them and you look at the policies that they should have passed when they had control and they didn't, and you just like Trump is going to do it. I guarantee. I bet my life that Trump is not going to actually pass substantial border policy, like because he wants to keep running on it. But I believe that the Democrats, in essence, might be doing the same thing. I might be mistaken, but I think that there was a point when Democrats did control. They had a majority control, and then they didn't codify Roe. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just like why? Like why would we? I just don't understand. And to me, call me conspiratorial. This is where my third party fucking hype club comes in. But I low key believe it's so that these problems can continue to perpetuate, so that they can continue to run on it. Because if you fix all the problems, which you never can, but if you fix them, then you can't run on whatever platform that you've been pushing for the past fucking 30 years now.
Yeah. And I guess like another area I kind of disagree with the left on is the economy and the economy's performance under Biden. I do attribute a lot of the blame to President Biden because the CBO projected that had the American Rescue Plan not had been passed in 2021, inflation would have remained at around 2 to 3%, and it shot up inflation to a 40-year high in mid 22. So,
I think that I'm actually not. I'm 100% certain. Inflation was not Biden's fault by like any means. It was like it was it, it, it was post COVID. So it was just post COVID like supply chain and supply demand shit rebalancing. It was expected. That's why interest rates were raised in expectation of the expected inflation because they lowered because people went inside and they weren't doing shit. So businesses lowered the supply of goods they were producing. Then once all of the I guess stay-at-home orders were lifted, people went out to go do things again. There's an increase in demand. Supply hadn't caught up yet, and we saw inflation. So that was like the main generation of inflation, plus the increase in energy prices because of like the Ukraine-Russia war. Like
oh
this,
yeah.
I don't think this is like I don't think the inflation was Biden's fault by like any means.
Well, and I would argue when like just to solidify the idea that there was post-COVID inflation, every election that happened during this time swung right because people felt like the economy. So like every single country was dealing with inflation, or most of the G7 was dealing with inflation, and as a result, I mean, I think it's just most countries in general were dealing with the inflation, and as a result of that, we saw like many people vote for whatever the opposing party would have been because they blame the inflation on the candidate or whoever was running the country at that time. So to say like it's necessarily Biden's fault, but when we see global inflation that all followed pretty much same trend, did we fare off better than the other G7 nations? Yes, for sure we did. But to like if we were to say the inflation that happened in America was Joe Biden's fault, and it followed the same trends as the inflation that happened globally, we would also have to say Biden is responsible for global inflation. And I think that that's just like, no, obviously not. But I
Well,
think,
I do think like there were outside contributing factors like the global supply chain disruptions. You had the Russia Ukraine war. We placed sanctions on Russia's oil, rightfully so. And if I'm not mistaken, I also believe like OPEC Plus cut the production of oil. So there were outside factors that contributed to inflation, but I'm just mainly going off of the CBO's projection of inflation remaining relatively low without us spending an extra $1.9 trillion for people to essentially stay home when a lot of the lockdown orders have already been lifted.
Mm. Yeah, no, I generally think like most of it was just like people went back out to do stuff, but companies had increased production, so we just saw like inflation.
are you saying
Yeah.
that it was the amount of money that was spent that caused it, or are you saying that it is the staying of home that caused it? Which are you saying like the cost of it was like the
Yeah, I'm saying like pumping $1.9 trillion into the economy when people were already starting to go back to work. I think that was inflationary.
I'd have to research that because I haven't researched that, so I'd research that. So I'm not gonna completely write off that it had potential to have some inflation attached to it. I just have to research it. I would say it didn't have enough compared to like if I had to give you pretend it did have some inflationary properties to it, I would definitely put supply chain issues and COVID up here comparatively on the inflation. So if I had to say maybe out of 100% of the inflation, I'd say maybe 10% might have been caused by that, whereas the other 80% would have been caused by COVID and the fallout of that and the supply chain issue and everything coming up. I'd just have to see like I'd have to research a little bit more to get my percentage more correct to see how much it actually impacted from an inflationary standpoint. But I don't think I just don't like even if I'm just thinking about it generally, I don't think that would have near as much impact as
We also have to remember that if Biden didn't stimulate the economy, we would have seen instead of well, I guess we probably would have seen higher unemployment. Um, and slightly lower inflation if I didn't assimilate the economy with the Inflation Reduction Act. So there's consequences to not deficit spending during times of crisis and I guess like just economic downturn.
I think that is a fair point, but like I'll have to search it up again. But I think like under quarter four, I can't believe I'm about to give Trump credit again. But under quarter four of the Trump administration in 2020, um, you did see unemployment go down. You also saw unemployment go down in quarter one of 2021, but it wasn't. And after that, employment remained relatively low, but it was the inflation that went up, and you saw a direct correlation between the American Rescue Plan and inflation.
So okay, so um, unemployment and inflation are like inversely related. So if we have very high inflation, we'll typically have very low unemployment.
Yeah.
Um, so that's typically what people are considering when when we were deficit spending during like times of crisis or economic downturn, because people people tend to get a lot more angry when they lose their jobs versus when the price of goods go up. So a lot of so most of the time we use deficit spend instead of letting people just like completely lose their entire jobs. We also have to remember that the lockdowns ended under Biden, and when the lockdowns ended, people went back to buying shit because the consumer economy and companies had not increased their supply to pre-COVID levels. So we saw like massive inflation due to like a disparity in the supply and demand of goods.
Yeah, that is true, but would you also say that like on top of the fact that there wasn't enough supply already to meet the demand of consumers,
Well,
that the
there
American Rescue Plan contributed to inflation because people essentially had extra money in their pockets to continue to spend.
Yeah, but I think the American Rescue Plan, that extra money was justified in order to stave off the outsized impacts of like higher unemployment, which personally I really wouldn't like.
Yeah.
also there it was very hard to get a hold of anything you wanted to get as far as any products. If you went on Amazon, if you went to the store, it was hard to get anything for that whole big, huge beginning of the pandemic.
The very
Also,
definition of inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. So the two levers that you're both there that everyone's sort of talking around are the reality of the global supply chain limiting the total number of goods available in the economy. The reason for the inflationary reaction to the Biden administration and the pumping of money into the American economy was a direct result of exactly that. There was people that were going to go literal homeless. They weren't going to eat. They weren't going to pay their bills because the world was shut down. So they had to pump money into people's hands. But as a result of that, with the global supply chain shut down, now have more people that are able to buy more goods, but there aren't any goods available. And it took a little over 3 years. And to be fair, of comparable nations of the same size, of the same scale of economy, we had the lowest inflationary percentage of any of those modern economies. So think China, think the UK, think Spain, think Europe. All these people all had significantly higher inflationary rates, and we had a significantly lower one. Mercedes, a minute ago, you had mentioned that you'd mentioned that they were other countries were also feeling the effects. That's why it wasn't an American phenomenon, and you can't blame Biden for a global pandemic. And the too much money chasing too few goods happened all over the world. We just felt the effects the least.
yeah, I completely agree.
Quick question for Dell. Are you running for something?
I am. I actually just filed. I am running for Congress in Arizona's first district. I'm trying to unseat David Schweiker, the author of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Bro, hit me up because I will utilize any and all of my platforms to bring awareness to your campaign.
I would love to partner with you going forward. I've been watching the Unfuck America tour, and everyone, I love everyone on that schedule.
Cool, cool. I mean, like, yeah, like I got this platform's got 500,000. I got another platform on TikTok here. I got two with 500,000. I got an Instagram with 438,000. If you have Instagram, you can send whatever collabs you want my way. I don't know. I like people who are running and then get involved like this and shit. Like, yeah, you got my
I
back and my voice.
Um,
I love it. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to DM you. But to your point again, I appreciate all that. To your point again, though, and for the point of the discussion, we have to be real about what Biden did and didn't do and what Trump did and didn't do. So earlier, um, Caleb, I think you were mentioning that you were giving Trump flowers for the economy in 2021. But the reality is, Trump didn't do anything to help the situation other than when the economy was falling apart, he did give out checks, but he even held those off because he wanted to put his name on them.
well,
So
actually, did the bad
Well,
thing,
yeah.
which was he decided to frickin' deficit spend and cut taxes during a boom economy. It's the exact
Yeah,
he made it worse. Absolutely.
yeah, that's another thing. Like he added $8.4 trillion to the national debt under his first term, and the big disastrous bill he's trying to pass will add roughly, and I think this is a very conservative estimate, but they said like it'll add 2.4 trillion over the next 10 years. Yeah,
Hey, I want to say something. I want him to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh my god.
Sorry, that's all.
Go away.
No, just because it was funny to say. That's all. Go ahead. Sorry.
If you give him the Nobel Peace Prize, he'll be so distracted by that, maybe he'll stop fucking up the government. He'll be
That's what I was thinking too. If we just give him a Nobel Peace Prize, maybe he'll back ICE off.
yeah.
I
it's
know. He'll be like,
just
you
good. It's
guys, my big, beautiful Nobel Peace Prize.
My big
It's
beautiful
my pick.
Nobel Peace Prize.
yeah, like
Nobel Peace Prize as good as this
hindsight.
one.
Hindsight is 2020.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think Biden took all the correct decisions considering the information he had at the time. Like I like if he didn't do anything, we would have just had like a massive recession with just a shit ton of layoffs and like a huge spike in unemployment. It would have been really bad, and people would have complained
Well,
a lot more probably.
I think within the next year, he's gonna have an issue with the chicken bone. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Sorry, can I ask Bella a question really quick?
What's up?
Yeah, so I'm an econ major, so I was wondering if you thought like obviously like tax cuts for the rich is bad. It won't actually stimulate the economy, but do you think that instead of raising taxes on large corporations, and we should like rewrite the tax code to make it to where they're incentivized to put a lot of that extra money back into the economy?
It's so funny that you mentioned that. One of my platform positions is actually this. So when we think back in history of when was in theory, one of the greatest periods of American prosperity, and it's post World War II. Nobody debates that. Everyone around the world understands that the establishment and the creation and protection of the middle class is what created the engine that turned us into the global power that we are. Obviously, there were a lot of global, post World War II situations that contributed to us becoming the economic superpower. But one of the things that we need to do is incentivize, as you said, corporations to pay their fair share. The only way we do that, and not by outsourcing, right? So they tried it in the early 2000s. Clinton and attempted to try and bring some of those reel in some of those corporations, those multinationals, by incentivizing them to stay and build factories here in America. That didn't end up working because we had already repealed all of the taxation codes that required corporations to return those profits to American shores. I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, corporations used to have an effective tax rate upwards of or a progressive tax rate that I think it was over $1 million. 90% of that had to go back into your your company or face taxation. We need to return to those same days. In order to force companies, right? So Milton Friedman said in 1970 that a corporation's only obligation is to work within the bounds of the law to receive as much profit as they possibly can. They're doing what they're supposed to do, including changing laws in the tax code so that they don't have to contribute to the government. We can force that by returning to our taxation codes on corporations once again by simply telling them, look, every dollar that you receive of profit, not of cost, but not of revenue, but of profit that is over X amount of dollars, if you don't return that to domestic input, whether that's research, development, employee salaries, we're just going to tax it from you and we'll redistribute it the way that we see fit. Or you can decide that you want to do the right thing and take care of your employees, and you can decide what happens to that money. But what you can't do is what you're doing now, which is just hoarding it, or worse, doing stock buybacks. So we can
Right.
limit a lot of corporations what they do with that profit by incentivizing them to reinvest in their own companies and thereby increasing the wages of all of their employees, or we can tax that money and just take it from you. That's the way the economy used to run in post World War II. And I don't know why in this modern era we've just forgotten that. So I love that you acknowledge that we used to do that. Let's go back to that.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most politicians listen to special interests over their own voters.
Again, it's Milton Friedman. If you're
Yeah.
operating within the bounds of the law and you change the laws, you're good. That's somehow that became our morality in corporations. I don't understand how or why we feel like this is going to continue to go well. 90% of the wealth, what is it? 60% of the wealth is owned by like 400 families in this country. That's insanity. We can't live like this. We're in further than the Gilded Age of wealth inequality. And the way we countered it back in the early 1940s is the way we counter it again. We just go right back to that taxation rate. We go back to incentivizing companies to reinvest in their companies, reinvest in their products, reinvest in America, and and disincentivize them from just taking that money, sending it overseas, and disappearing. Because here's the thing: they're going to do that anyway, right? So everyone's afraid that these companies are going to offshore. But the reality is, if you change anything about it, they're going to find another country to exploit. Apple did it with Ireland. You're seeing even Ireland get mad because now they're moving their money from Ireland to Portugal, just so you know. So that's the new haven. So everyone's going in all of these other directions, these multinationals. But what we've forgotten is there's a lot of gap between Apple and your everyday business that's down on the floor. Like there's a huge gap, and we have to go back to incentivizing, rebuilding that competition. And here's another fun one that nobody wants to talk about. We used to smash monopolies because competition is a good thing for the economy. We no longer have competition. Something like 7 companies own all of the economy. That's insanity. Like Disney, just everything that you create in entertainment, it's owned by Disney. Like that's not okay. That's not how we used to operate in this country. We used to have an antitrust division that actually created competition, that actually created results and lower prices, higher quality, more wages for the middle class. And the way you do that is by breaking up monopolies, incentivizing competition. But again, we've stopped all of that type of legislation, as you said, because lobbyists get to them. Because I know how expensive it is to run for Congress. I'm in the
Don't
middle of that
forget,
right now.
don't forget my consumption tax. Okay, please don't
Dude,
forget it.
I'm gonna move to Arizona just to vote for you. At this point.
Yes.
There's a handful of us on TikTok here that are of the people, for the people.
Yeah,
You go onto YouTube and check out my video. It's called Status Quo and Chaos. Those are our choices right now, and that's unacceptable. The reason we are where we are is because the choices we have are either status quo or chaos. That is not a way to run a country. And we used to be able to just trust the status quo because at the time the middle class was doing well. We're no longer there. We're no longer there. The wealthy, our fight is not left versus right. It is up versus down. And until we all figure that part out, we're going to continue to remain in status quo or chaos.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's just fucking cool. Thank you so much, Steve. Steve, you're very sweet. Thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you. But yeah,
All right, I'm not going on a rant here.
no,
Apologize.
it's making me want to vote for you, and I'm like, damn it. That's thanks again, Steve. You're very, very kind. You're very
I
sweet.
mean, right now it's freaking rule of law versus anarchy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
so I am probably gonna hit the hay. I've been in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Been here for 5 hours. Steve, you don't have to do this. No, Steve, you're very, very sweet. You're very kind. Thank you again so much. Dell, you're allowed on this panel anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, hit me up in my DMs, and dude, you're incredible. So I really like you. You're cool. And Caleb, I
Thank you.
followed you a lot. I followed you. I'll make no. Now I followed you. I thought I followed you earlier. I don't know. And then Dell, I followed you, and Gen X, I think I already follow you. And Cringy, of course, I follow you. Steve, you're awesome too. I just followed you. All of you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much too for bringing up the Unfuck America tour and being like, you know what, y'all are.
Dude, I follow everything you do and have been following you since even before the Unfuck America tour, so I really appreciate your channel. It is one of my favorite joys. I wake up every morning looking forward to camp call out. Let me tell you, I am always watching your content and have been before I ran, and I will continue to do so as long as you continue to put it out. I appreciate everything that you do.
I'm gonna go cry now. So thanks, guys. Love y'all. Peace out. You guys
Hey.
stay blessed. Good
I'm
night,
gonna
guys.
watch